everyone, welcome to Travel, Explore, Celebrate Life by Veena World. We are your hosts Neil Patil and Sunila Patil. Now, last week, we had the incredible opportunity of speaking about the land of the rising sun, Japan. And that was a podcast episode where Sunila was asking more of the questions and I was answering. This time, we are doing a role reversal. And from the land of the rising sun, we are going to fly west. We are going to go fly west and we are going to pass through Russia and we are going to come to Europe. And as we fly west from Japan, we are going to come to Eastern Europe. In Eastern Europe, we are going to talk about one of Eastern Europe's most popular landlocked countries. This country is landlocked by Romania, Serbia, Croatia, a little bit of Slovenia, a little bit of Ukraine, Slovakia, and Austria. We are going to talk about a country that always sounds like something that you feel at about 1 p.m. or about 8 p.m. That's Hungary. Now, Hungary, often spelled or actually spelled as Hungary, often confuses people. Should I say Hungary, Hungary, or Hungary? Now, as I looked up the British pronunciation, the Indian pronunciation, the American pronunciation, the most popular way of pronouncing the name of this country is Hungary. And if you look at the map of Hungary, of course, there are many things that Sunila is going to tell us about. But today we are going to talk about the city, the capital of Hungary, that is Budapest. Sunila, welcome to Travel, Explore, Celebrate Life.
Hi, Neil. Hi, everyone. It's always great to be here. And yeah, I'm so excited. Hungary, I love the country and especially Budapest. I just love that city. I had a chance to go there and I can't wait to go back.
Well, I'm glad we are doing a role reversal because you know so much about this place. And as we begin dissecting, we would need to do a different episode on Hungary and we would need to do a different episode on Budapest. So without wasting any time, let's just dive in. Okay. Now, Budapest is the capital. They say Budapest is the capital city of Hungary. But when I made that statement to you, you said that, Neil, don't say Budapest is the capital city. You can often say that Budapest is not one, but multiple cities. What did you mean when you said that?
So, Neil, Budapest itself, and I really like it. When I went there, I realized that the locals, we say Budapest, but the locals say Budapest. And it's a very sweet way of speaking. And I love the pronunciation and I try to do it every time. Of course, sometimes I go back to Budapest again and again. But yes, so Budapest is actually not one, but it was merged by three cities, by bringing three cities together. So the Danube runs through Budapest. And the Danube is the river that starts in Germany and flows through most of Eastern Europe and Southeast Europe, all the way up to Ukraine. So Budapest kind of is, we can say, midway through the course of this river. And, earlier there were two towns on two sides of the river. You had Buda on one side and you had Pest on the other side. And you also had Obuda meaning Old Buda, which was also the Roman, a city that was built by the Romans there, Aquinum, and that was all there. And then say around the 1870s, they decided that we need to merge the three cities together. And it's funny how they decided to do that, because when they decided to merge the cities, they were looking for a new name and they came across many names. Now, one person whom we'll hear about again and again and whose name you see again and again in Budapest is Széchenyi. He was this statesman and he came up with different names because he wanted some different names. But the names he came up with had, it meant like shameless streets in French. So everyone rejected those names and they finally settled on calling it one name. So Obuda, Buda and Pest, they decided to merge these three cities together and call it Budapest. But what's even more interesting is...
So you're saying the three cities are Obuda,
Buda and Pest.
So the three cities that merged into one, which became what we know as Budapest. Okay.
And Buda is the old city. Pest is kind of the newer city. So the Castle Hill, all the monuments, those Fisherman's Bastion and the Castle Hill district, the Buda Castle comes from Buda. Now, when they started calling it together, they actually called it Pest Buda. But nobody liked the word pest. They said it doesn't sound nice and it actually means plague. So they said, we can't call our city like that. And also what happened is They actually just started calling it that. Why? Because Pest is the bigger area. So they said we should give it more importance because that's, the bigger area. But when they wrote Pest Buddha and the way it started appearing on the map, Pest started appearing over the region that was Buddha, and Buddha started appearing over the region that was Pest. So they said, let's just swap it. And they then finally called it Budapest. So, that's how the city came across. So in 1873, the city came together. And then, of course, it's just beautiful. And then, of course, what helped bring it together was the bridge. And we'll talk of the bridge later, the chain bridge, the famous chain bridge. So that kind of really brought the two cities together.
That's the bridge in Hum Dil De Chuke Sanam.
Exactly. The last scene, I think, in Hum Dil De Chuke Sanam, I think they call it Italy in the movie, but it's actually Hungary. So, all at that point, people really didn't, maybe Italy was more popular or whatever, but they keep calling it. The stories said that they are in Italy and they call it Italy all the time, but you then know that, no, this is not Italy, it's Hungary.
Yeah. I mean, for some reason, Bollywood loves Budapest, and some of the movies that have been shot there have been Hum Dil De Chuke Sanam. There's Jab Harry Met Sejal. Then there was Dangal. A little bit of it was shot there. There was Rapta. There was Force 2 that was actually shot there. But it is very intriguing that you go back and find the history of the name of a particular city. Often when you visit a city, you're actually just going and finding out what are the best things to do. Of course, that's going to be my next question to you, that what are the best sites in Budapest. But the etymology of actually going in and finding out what the name really means, how it came together and all is super interesting. And of course, we do that on our other sister podcast, Know the Unknown. But let's dive into the next question then. Okay, now that we know that these three cities came together, that's how the name came about. What are some of the famous sites that people often go visit in Budapest?
Yes, Neil. So, I mean, you said that the movies are shot here, not just Bollywood, a lot of Hollywood movies are also shot here. And it's not surprising that they love to shoot here because the city is so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And, if you kind of go a little bit into the history of the country, you'll know why. Because so many different people came and made Budapest and Hungary their home. So you had the Celts, then you had the Romans who came in. They built everything. And we know that wherever the Romans go, they build these amazing structures. And then you have these Roman ruins everywhere, right? Then you had the Huns who came in. And that's how Hungary, like the Attila, the Hun, and all of them, they came in. Then you had the Mongols who came in. After that, there were the Ottomans who came in. Then Hungary became like a part of Croatia for some time. And after that, the Habsburgs took over. So you had the Austrian Empire and you had the Austro-Hungarian Empire for such a long time. So each, and then of course they had their independence and then they became Hungary. But so each one brought their own style with them. So each one brought their own, amazing architectural styles. And what you see is this beautiful amalgamation. So the structures and the cities, like the buildings itself, are so amazing that by day and by night, and you can just go on watching. So I would say you can divide the city. I mean, they were two cities, so it's easy to say that. And you just take the river as your center point, and you have the Buda or the castle district on one side. So let's kind of start with that. On that side of the city, you have the Buda Castle, which is one of the most famous landmarks. And if you've seen any photos of Budapest, you would have seen the Buda Castle out there. So it has the Budapest History Museum, it has the National Library, it has the Hungarian National Gallery, and of course it's connected by the, the chain bridge there. So once you get off the chain bridge, then you have a funicular which takes you up to this hill because it's on top of the hill. And that's why you see it from everywhere. Wherever you're in Budapest, you keep seeing this place. And then you can walk around this whole Buda Castle area. Unfortunately, when I went, things were just opening up post-pandemic, and the castle was closed at that point. So we really couldn't go there. but you can walk up to the hill there. You can take the funicular and go up there, or there are like really steep stairs if you want to be a little more active from the chain bridge. That will take you up there, and then you can really explore that entire area, and it is just stunning. So it's this beautiful palace, but unfortunately the royalty couldn't really enjoy it because there were so many wars that kept happening in Hungary and Budapest, right? So you have the Buda Castle. Now next to it, or not too far away from it, I would say, is one of my favorite places in Budapest. Really favorite. It's just amazing, and that is known as the Fisherman's Bastion. Now, the Fisherman's Bastion is like a lookout. And if you've seen it, it's those ones with the conical towers that you see everywhere. This very pretty, it looks like some right out of a fairy tale. And it's right on the river. So that's something you just can't miss it. The best thing to do is to go up there, and there are these lookout points at the Fisherman's Bastion, and you can actually see the Hungarian parliament on the other side, or in Pest area. So I would really recommend go there in the day, and please go back there in the evening, because that is a view you really don't want to miss. So the Fisherman's Bastion is, again, if Buda Castle is more the Baroque style, which is the style which is quite heavy and very decorative. Fisherman's Bastion is more the Neo-Gothic and Romanesque style. So this is more vertical, more linear. And it was opened in like 1902, and ever since it's been one of the most popular out there. So you have these 7 towers out there, and each tower represents one of the tribes that founded Hungary, the Magyar tribes that were there. So each tower is, representing that. And then there are restaurants, there are lookout points. So you can actually just walk in and go around. And that's kind of what you see on the Buda side. And of course, on the Pest side, you have the Budapest Parliament. Again, something you should not miss. You have the Hero Square.
Can you go inside the parliament?
Sorry?
Can you go inside?
No. In fact, okay, good point. When you're talking of the parliament building is absolutely stunning, but you have to actually book your entry to go in there. So we were a little late in doing that, and unfortunately that day it was all full. But if you go to the parliament's website, you can book in your entries, because the dome hall, the staircase, and the upper house hall, it was just so stunning even from outside. So I can just imagine how beautiful it would be from the inside. And, this is where the National Assembly of Hungary sits, one of the biggest buildings in Europe, and it has almost 700 rooms, 691 rooms. Just imagine, Neil, it is like almost 900 feet, 879 feet long, and 400 feet wide. So this is huge. Like, it is one of the city's major symbols. So definitely worth a visit. If you can go inside, nothing like it. But for us, it was even stunning to be out there. And I remember I went with my friends. So on one side, you have the river, but when you go behind to the square, they've actually made like this water body and the whole vastness, and you feel quite at peace. Because sometimes when you're traveling, and you're seeing monument after monument after monument, it can become a little overwhelming. But just sitting outside the Parliament House with a water body there, some steps out there, and this huge open area, is just amazing. I mean, I can keep talking of all the other attractions there, but we'll get to it one by one.
So you mentioned a lot of sites, right? And of course, when you go on a tour with Veena World, you'll of course see all of these sites, because the tour manager will be there with you. But if you've gone alone, right, taxis can be a pain point, I've heard, in Budapest. And why did I hear this? Because when I was in Istanbul, taxis in Istanbul are also a pain point, because they often don't go by the meter, then they want to charge you extra and all of that. But in Istanbul, there were Ubers, right? But Ubers, you mentioned, don't really work in Budapest. So how do you get around? Like, what do you do?
It's actually quite easy. And I think you made a very valid point there. When you're on a group tour, and I realized that even when I went now, you actually really end up seeing all the sites. If you want to see all the sites of any city, please go on a group tour. And then if you want, take like 3-4 days and relax on your own. I think that's the easiest way to, manage both. Because we were also 3 friends, me and 2 of my friends. And you know how it is when you're like partying in the evening or something, you don't want to wake up early in the morning and go, and you're saying, it's okay, let's take it easy. By the time you reach a monument, the entrance line is too long, or there's something else happening, and you're just too tired to go from one place to the other sometimes, or you just want to soak in the atmosphere also. So you don't really end up seeing all the sites. We did do a walking tour though, which kind of really was very interesting. And I would say, Neil, that walking in Budapest is one of the best ways to get around the city. But of course, you'll want to use taxis, especially when you're out partying or you want to go out a little, bit of a distance. So we realized that the taxis are really difficult. It's very difficult to hail. They don't look at you. They just go ahead or they rip you off. So one tip here is to not take a taxi that says freelancer. If a taxi says on top that it is a freelancer, please don't take that taxi, because they are not bound by any company and they can basically charge whatever it is that they want. They can be a little bit of a rip-off also at times. They're making their money. So that's something to avoid. What really works, Uber was almost non-existent, but what really works here, and which I've seen works through most of Eastern Europe especially, is an app called Bolt. So Bolt is kind of like an Uber app, and Bolt really worked well. It was perfect. People came in, they didn't charge you too much. Everything was quite easy with that. And there are a few other local apps that you could use. So you can walk, you can use these taxis, or you could use the public transport. Public transport is really very easy to get around. You have the metros. It has one of the oldest metros in Europe, in fact, Budapest, and the trams. So you have a special tram, like there is a particular tram called tram 4-6, number 4 and 6, which kind of goes through all the important sites in the city. So it's a semicircular tram. Even if you don't want to get out, just sit in the tram and go take a round. It's amazing to get by because you're going through most of the important sites. One more really important point, which is something we learned by mistake, by experience, some mistakes you make as a tourist, even though you've traveled to so many countries, is we were too excited, and we had our train tickets, we had our metro tickets, and we went through, and actually we didn't see it. So there were validating machines and we forgot to validate the tickets, and we went down and there was a TC standing there, and then he kind of stopped us and he said, your tickets are not valid. So, and we said, but we just bought them. And then, so just remember, validate your tickets. And then of course we went back and forth a little bit. We paid a fine, and it ended up paying much more than what we would have. But remember to validate your tickets. And this holds true for many places where there are metros. Please remember validating tickets. So trams, metros, and walking and Bolt app is the best way to get around.
Speaking of the metro in Budapest, it is said that the metro is the oldest metro line of continental Europe.
Yeah.
And of course, most cities have a good train network and all of that, but Budapest has the oldest metro line. Now, picking up on like another tangent, that you spoke about the different sites that you will see, and you mentioned that, okay, there are these places where you can get a good view of the city and all of that, but Budapest has no skyscrapers.
True.
Like, there is something, right? There's a rule which says not above 96 meters or something like that,
Yes.
I think you can't take a building in Budapest can't be taller than that. Do you think that adds to the excitement and the magnificence of the actual city, because it then becomes an architectural delight?
No, you're absolutely right. It does, because, there is nothing that is overpowering. And then the main monuments, I think, stand out really well. Like, for example, you have the church, like the most famous church that you see there, the Istvan Cathedral. It just stands out against everything else, because everything else is not very tall. So I think it helps the main landmarks really stand out well. And it is really a pleasure when you're doing a walking tour, or if you're just walking in the city, because Budapest has many beautiful roads that you can take and you can walk around. There is the Hero Square, which was again one of the very important monuments in Budapest, which was built to commemorate again the 7 leaders of the 7 Hungarian tribes that kind of made Budapest. So all these structures, I think, get that grandness when everything else is a little low. So you're absolutely right there. And you have the Great Synagogue, which is, again, I think the second largest synagogue in the world, which is also in Budapest. So we can go on and on. And one more thing, Neil, is, this city is not just above ground, but actually it has a city below ground also. So just under the Buda Castle, there is a whole labyrinth or a cave system with springs, basements, caves, cellars, that people used to use back then. And there was a torture chamber, a prison, a safe. So this was all used through the Middle Ages, and really quite amazing. So a lot happens in Budapest underground as well.
Yeah, it's known as, like, it has a very extensive underground network of caverns and all of that, right? and just a lot of history and culture that you can actually witness when you're in Budapest. Let's come to the nightlife.
Yeah.
Like, you can do a lot during the day also, but like you said, that often when you're in Budapest and you're on your own, you might be waking up late because you're enjoying the nightlife, nightlife,
Yes.
nightlife. What's the nightlife like?
Oh, it's amazing. I don't think they sleep at all. Of course, at times for me, it was a bit too overwhelming. So you can actually choose how much you want to be a part of it, how much you don't want to be, but you can really go out there and have a great time. And I think for that, it's a great place even for women to go, like our women specials or tours, or if you're going out with your girlfriend gangs or something, it's quite safe. We didn't have any problem anywhere. You can stay out till late in the night. Just make sure your hotels are closer to the nightlife if you really want to enjoy the nightlife. So at least be in that 10-15 minutes walking distance, and then you have no problems, or make sure you have the bolt app to get back safely.
Yeah.
So just be a little careful, and other things are really good. I think two things about the evenings in Budapest that really I loved. One was, of course, the nightlife, and we'll come to that. But the other part is all these monuments, Neil, are lit up and illuminated so beautifully that you can actually just take an evening tour and go, walking, or take one of the Danube cruises. So many cruises run on the Danube, and having an evening or a dinner cruise or just an evening cruise on the Danube, and looking at the parliament on one side, and then looking at the Buddha Castle and the Fisherman's Bastion on the other side, Four Seasons, Gresham Palace. There are so many these beautiful buildings, and all are lit up so well. And of course, the chain bridge, the Széchenyi chain bridge. All of this looks so stunning at night that you want to keep using your night mode really well. Make sure you have your tripod, get your photos right. So that is one part of the evening, because I definitely think you have to step out in the night in Budapest. And secondly, yes, the nightlife. So one of the most favorite places, and it's quite amazing how they did it, is what is famously known in Budapest are the ruin bars. So they had these, like World War II, a lot of Budapest was really destroyed. And in the Jewish quarter of Budapest, these buildings are lying in ruins. So instead of like completely destroying them, what they did, quite innovative, is they said, let's use the buildings the way they are. Let's not rebuild everything all over again. And they left it in the state they are in. And one of the pioneers in this is like a club or a bar called Simpla Court, which is very famous now. Everybody goes to Simpla Court in the ruin bars, and they just kept the buildings the way they are. And they started putting these very quirky addition, like there's a bathtub and old used furniture that people had left, forgotten. So excellent way to reuse. So very lively and stunning. So, these are all, and then everybody started doing that. And then you have this major area where you can, it was just a lot of energy. So we went there for some time, but after that, it was okay. But there are a lot of bars. You can choose from many different things. And if you want, keep bar hopping, pub hopping, go from one place to the other, live music, a lot of fun. So yeah, you can have, there is this area in the center, like a courtyard called Gozdu Dwar, which is where everyone comes and meets, because it's very lively. So Budapest is rocking when it comes to nightlife.
Well, I haven't seen you as excited speaking about the nightlife of another city in a long time. So, well, it seems like a place where someone can go for their bachelor party, spend like celebrating their 30th, 50th, whatever birthday and all of that. Now, you also mentioned like a few minutes ago that you can walk around in Budapest, and walking is really nice. You see all of these architectural marvels. But one unique thing that you often come across is thermal baths. And thermal baths are like everywhere in the city, right? And as I was looking at fun facts about Budapest, I came across a fact that Budapest is the city with the most thermal baths. Is the city with, or the capital city with the most thermal baths in the world, right? No other capital city has more thermal baths. But what is this fixation with thermal baths? Like, what brought them? How did they get there?
Okay, so it goes back to like what we spoke about, the cave systems, something similar, because the city and the country itself has a lot of hot springs that run under it. So they are just lucky that because of the geography of the area and the country, they have a lot of thermal springs that run in the area. And in fact, when they were looking for different things of water or oil, and when they were drilling, they discovered these thermal springs as well in some places. And the Romans were here, and the Romans are fixated with having the Roman baths. So the Roman baths, even like when you go to the UK and you go to the city itself is called Bath, right? You remember you've been there.
Yes.
So that was also said by the Romans. So the Romans, wherever they went, made sure that they built the city, they built a fortress, they built a wall, they built an aqueduct, and they built baths. So when people started realizing that these hot springs actually have minerals in them, so it didn't start off as a cosmetic treatment. It was more therapeutic. So the hot thermal springs actually have a lot of therapeutic uses. So for joint stiffness and arthritis and skin problems, these were a God-given boon, and that's how it started spreading. So you can visit some of these thermal baths there very easily and go and soak yourself. Of course, today you're not going there only for arthritis. You're going there to just relax, enjoy, and lying in hot water, naturally hot water, is often very relaxing. So it is, and then along with that, the spa treatments and everything and the massages came in. So it's an amazing wellness area that you can go to.
Nice. Now, often when you visit another country, another city, you often try to find whether there are any Indian links to it. Like, say, for example, when we go to now Sydney, there is the SCG, which has a Sachin Tendulkar stand there, right? If you were to go to a place anywhere in Europe, for that matter, you try to find links. For example, when we go to Mount Atlas, you are like, okay, Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge was shot in Switzerland, worked wonders. Spain, Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. All of these different things. So I remember you mentioned that Budapest, apart from the Bollywood movies, also has an Indian connection. What was that?
So, in fact, this connection is really quite special, and I think we would all love to be a part of it, or at least see it, if we can. And in fact, Neil, with Veena World, we did that with our group tours. We have added a certain area in Hungary, which is known as Balaton. So, Lake Balaton is about 1.5 to 2 hours from Budapest. And Lake Balaton is one of, I think it's the second largest lake in Europe, Central Europe at least. And it's so beautiful. And what is really special is that Rabindranath Tagore actually lived here. So they say that Hungary and Tagore had this love relationship where he was traveling all through Balaton. So on the shores of Lake Balaton is a very beautiful town called Balaton Fured. And this is where you can go if you want to be in a really beautiful place. The promenade here is beautiful. You have nearby the Badishkoni region, which is the wine growing region. You have Tihany here, which is very charming, pretty villages out here. So I think just being in that pretty village in itself is enough to heal your mind and soul and, be in a calm place. But Rabindranath Tagore was known to come here for his arthritis and for his treatments. So because the healing waters here are really nice. And if you go a little bit further, then you have Lake Hevis, which itself is the thermal lake. So it's the largest thermal lake in Europe, which is out here. So, one of the promenades at Balaton is actually known as the Tagore Promenade. And there is an inscription with Tagore's lines here. There is also a statue of Rabindranath Tagore here. So you feel so happy and proud when you go there and you see that there is something to do with India, which is not just Bollywood, but something even more special out here.
Awesome. Now, as we reach the end of the episode, just wanted to ask you, because I had two things I actually wanted to ask you. One, let's talk about the food and the drink.
Yes,
right?
Our favorite topic always.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Are there any specific dishes or any drinks that, remind you of Budapest, are special from Budapest?
Yes, so definitely to something that you must try, two things you must try one is the goulash, which is the soup, Budapest soup. And the second thing that you must try, if you do have non-veg, of course, is the chicken paprikash. In fact, I loved it so much that I got back a lot of paprika from there and just Just last week I made chicken paprikash at home. So you can experiment. It's quite simple. There is a lot of paprika that grows in the region. There's a lot of paprika that Budapest they use. So they use a lot of paprika and sour cream in a lot of their dishes, which you keep seeing. So these two things are something that you should definitely try. Along with that, the street food is also quite interesting. So you have a flatbread called the langosh, which is
Mm-hmm.
a flatbread with some sour cream again in it, or cream cheese in it, and different toppings. Now they've like become quite, they experiment quite a bit, and there are different toppings here that you see. So that is something you can try. Or I think I'd mentioned in the Prague episode also is the chimney cones, which is also something that you see here. So it's like a
The
dessert.
chimney cones.
Chimney
Mm.
cones. So they look like these ice cream cones, but they are, like a chimney. They call it the chimney cones. And
Mhm.
you know how we make shawarma and you rotate
Yeah, yeah,
something. So
yeah.
similarly, they would put flour onto these big skewers, and they'll rotate the skewers till the flour really bakes very well. So it's not non-vegetarian, it's vegetarian. Of course, now they've experimented, there are savory cones as well, but some of the, for a sweet tooth, to satisfy your sweet tooth, the chimney cones are something definitely you should have. So there are many more dishes with meats in it that you should try. And one of the things they suggest, if you really want to live like a local in Budapest, is to go to the Great Market Hall, or the Central Market Hall. It's amazing. It's this big hall, like, well, if I can say, like our Crawford Market, but much bigger, maybe 4 or 5 times bigger. And they have a lot of these things there. And one of the things people say you should do is to go there for breakfast and have sausages with mustard, like a spicy sausage. That is also again something which is very typical of Budapest to have. Drinks, you can't miss the wines. The locally made wines are quite cheap, in fact, and very, very nice. So
Mhm.
that is something that you should do. And the other thing, of course, is palinka. So palinka is like schnapps, nice fruity flavors, pears and different things. Pears are one of apricot pears. Pears are probably one of the most popular. Palinka is the pear palinka. And of course, now they're making some beers and other stuff also. So these are a few things that you must try. One of the restaurants we went to in the ruin bars called Mazeltov was serving like Mediterranean dishes as well, and along with that, some locals. So it was a very, very beautiful place, very nicely done, and I highly recommend that.
Great. Now, finally, coming back to India, what
Uh,
are some of the shopping things that we should get from
mhm.
Budapest? Let's end the episode with a question like that.
Yeah, Neil. So one of the best things about Budapest, when you're shopping, you like to be in a street where you don't have to worry about watching where you're going. And I think Vaci Utsa is one of the streets here, which is a pedestrian walking street. And there's one more avenue, which is like their Champs-Élysées. It's called the Andrassy Avenue, which is a little bit more upmarket. But Vaci Utsa is something I really enjoyed shopping. So I think I came back with at least 4 or 5 pairs of shoes because it's just too tempting and really good quality and quite economical. So you can pick up a lot of things, very some local stuff and some, most of the European things, German brands and other brands that you see here. So a lot of, the whole street has a lot of hotels, shops, restaurant, cafes. You can walk there. So you can shop for clothes and shoes, of course. But if you want to really bring back something that is Hungarian, definitely pick up a bottle of palinka. You can buy paprika in different flavors. So you have the sweet paprika, you have the hot paprika, you have the smoked paprika, you have actual like paprika, like mirchi that they
Mhm.
have, or you can even buy the ground powders, and they come in this very cute ceramic, bottles that you can even gift. Very nice for gifting. Or if you don't want to carry something that's heavy, they have their other normal packets that you can take. Now, if you want to buy a nice souvenir or a nice thing for your home, then ceramics and porcelain is something Budapest is famous. So
Okay.
Heron porcelain is something that was made for the royalty. So that has kind of come down and very beautiful. So porcelain in terms of crockery or other stuff, or you can even pick up a small, like a necklace or something that is made. You can go to the Heron factory as well. It's about an hour from Budapest, and you can go there and pick that up too. So I think, it's buying something that is locally made will definitely make you more happy when you come back. So these are some of the things that I would like to pick up in Budapest.
Mhm. Well, of course, I wanted to talk about Hungary in general also, but
Mhm.
we've actually run out of time because we've
Yeah.
spoken for the last 35 minutes. How would you like to end it, Sunila?
Neil, I just want to go back to the thermal baths we mentioned.
Yeah.
So on the website or when you're searching, it all looks amazing.
Mhm.
Just be aware that these are very popular, and that translates into what we'll see are crowded. So these
Yeah.
can be extremely crowded. So be really sure if you want to go there. Many people think there are only one or two baths. That's not true. In fact, even in Budapest, there are 4 or 5 different baths. Two of the most famous ones are Gellert and Szechenyi, which are nice. There are like 18, 20 pools out there. But when we went, and this was also just post pandemic, it was super crowded. I think it's more suited for the very young generation who want to go there. They, in fact, have something called a spa party on weekends. So, spa
Mm.
parties, and you can have alcohol and everything in there. May
Yeah.
not suit families or many other people. But most of the hotels in Budapest have their own spa, and which is more relaxing. So if you really want to relax, stick to a good hotel and enjoy the spa in your hotel, or go to Lake Heves. Maybe we'll cover the rest of Hungary in some other episode. So I would say Budapest is this amazing place for architectural sightseeing, for the thermal baths, and just for relaxing as well. It also has a history. You come across different things. Like when we were walking, we saw something called the Shoes on the Danube, which was a very moving memorial for the Jews who
Mhm.
also gave up their lives here. So you have these cast iron shoes that are made, and it's a monument laid out there, right on the river bank, for all the Jews who died there. So the city has a lot of history. The city has a lot of architecture. City has a lot of beauty. So I think to really enjoy it fullest, make sure you give yourself enough time in Budapest. That's what I would like to say.
I think that's an apt way to end it. So, listeners, that was Budapest in Hungary, one of the most popular cities in Eastern
Mhm.
Europe. So that's it from us, Sunila and me, on Travel Explore Celebrate Life, a podcast by Veena World. Keep listening every Saturday and keep writing to us. My email ID is neil, @veenaworld.com. Sunila's is SUNILA @veenaworld.com, VEENAWORLD.com. Now, most of these episodes that we produce come from the feedback that we get from you, and we understand what you like, what you don't like, and that's why we keep coming up with different topics from all around the world. Next week, we also don't know where we are going to go, but it will be something interesting from the world of travel, culture, history, food, and a whole lot more. So thank you for tuning in, and we will see you the next time. Bye bye.